Welcome to the DTC Insider Podcast, where online business owners come to find actionable tips and tactics to grow their businesses. Now, here's your host, Ryan Roisentul.
Real quick before we continue with the episode, let me tell you something. If you own or work for a DTC brand and you're not hitting your revenue and profitability goals, you're not alone. Things are getting harder, and what used to work doesn't anymore. That's why it's important to find a business-oriented partner that's focused on improving the levers that will change the game for your business. And believe me, it is possible. At BSR Digital, to give you an example, we have recently helped our clients generate between, listen well, 80 and 700K in extra monthly revenue. If you'd like to explore how we could do the same for you and your business, head on over to bsrdigital.com and book a call with us. Hey, welcome to another episode. I'm Ryan Roisentul, your host, and today I'm going to interview Ryan Berg, co-founder and CEO of Aruna, an impact-driven athleisure brand that through their products and events, their customers can bring lifelong freedom to victims of human trafficking while celebrating freedom in their own adventure. Hey, Ryan, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Brian. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been 4 seasons already, and we have recorded over 160 episodes, but this is a special one, and I have never had something like this before. Typically, when companies come on the show and say they have a mission, it's a legit mission. Of course, it's really noble, and it's something they are passionate about. But this one is really deep. So I would love for you to, if you want, to tell the audience more about it.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, sex trafficking is a challenging topic for a lot of people to discuss, and certainly for a lot of people to hear. For some people, they're completely unaware that it happens. For others, they're far too familiar with it if they have lived experience. And so Aruna, essentially what we do is we combine the best of nonprofit and business together to create lifelong freedom for victims and survivors of human trafficking. And so I'll back that out a little bit, give it some context, and then share a little more specifically. So globally, human trafficking is a significant issue. It's, some estimates put it at 50 million people globally. And yet there are certain countries where multiple factors sort of coalesce to create an environment where human trafficking thrives. And typically underneath human trafficking, there's particular types. And the particular type that we work in is specifically sex trafficking. And within that segment, it disproportionately affects women, and specifically younger women who are in socioeconomic settings that prove to be much more difficult for them. And so once we learned about this, once we learned about what was taking place, and I spent a lot of time in some of these particular areas doing a lot of research, some of the staggering statistics that came out were the re-trafficking rates being extraordinarily high, sometimes as high as 75% of women that were freed that were being re-trafficked after having been freed. And so we decided there's got to be a better way to actually try and create a sustainable freedom pathway. And we knew that we're entrepreneurial and knew the way that we're wired. We thought there should be a business outlet or a business avenue where we can attack this problem using business. And so that's what we set to do. We set to basically learn the problem as much as we possibly could, and then actually try and create a solution that was driven by an economic engine built on business. And so through the nonprofit side, we have outreach centers in multiple red light areas. We create the pathway of freedom that way. And then we have an apprenticeship program where we do trauma counseling, skill and trade development, transitional housing, all of that leading to employment within the business side, the soft goods manufacturing side. And it's in that business where they have career wages, retirement savings, access to healthcare, ongoing trauma counseling. But the key point is that they are producing a product that can compete in the open market, even if no one knows the entire backstory. And in other words, it has to be a truly sustainable product that truly can compete for the entire process to work.
That's really deep. So it was first, it came the nonprofit, the cost, everything you do, and then the business is a mean or a vehicle to sustain, to give them a home, let's say, to give them um, uh, jobs and a purpose, if you want, as well, even if the customers are not aware of the whole story. Is that it?
Correct. Yeah, and actually we actually started with the business first and then started to work our way backwards into creating that nonprofit and creating the on-ramp for the young
Right.
women to step into the
Makes sense.
business. And part of the reason was, and this is what's really exciting, Brian, is we've actually seen that re-trafficking rate being that 75%. We've actually seen an over 60% reduction in those re-trafficking rates because of the model and truly with the mission of creating lifelong freedom and using business. And so that's a true testament to the power and the strength and the perseverance of some of these young women. And we've seen some of them just, I mean, excel in some really, really cool ways. And what's been fun is at the same time as we're designing product to truly compete and to meet a customer need, those customers, once they learn about who's made the product and what the impact of that product is, that has significantly impacted our lifetime value of the customer.
No, I don't think I interviewed them on the pod, but I definitely worked with a brand that they were manufacturing belts out of life belts, life yeah, I can say the word, but they were working with refugees,
Mm.
life jackets, with the straps of life jackets. They were recycling the whole thing and producing belts. I don't remember the name of the brand now.
Mm.
And that was for them front and center of the brand. Like it was everywhere, even videos, like, so this is not exactly the same for you, as you were saying before, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's challenging because we have a policy that we refer to as ethical storytelling. And so we are not going to use a woman's lived experience within human trafficking as a sort of means to sell a product. Instead, we want the product and the quality of that product and that product meeting that customer need to sell itself. But then as those artisans who are creating the product have said, hey, we feel really confident about this. We love what we're producing. And so they've said, we would love to have signature series. And so what we've actually done is all of our products now have the names of all the artisans who helped to create it in the interior lining of those products. And so the whole point is it nods to the craftsmanship. It helps to amplify the voices of those women without overtelling the story. And so we typically will talk about the story in general ways. At times there are young women who will share their specific story, but we don't press them to do that. We're just simply if they're ready and they want to, that they can share their story.
First,
But really what we've been striving to do is make sure that product itself truly does meet a customer need
yeah,
and stands on its own.
great. Talking about the business now, um, what do you think that's going on in the DTC space? I mean, not only the DTC space, everything is like a little bit crazier right now. But if you want to talk about specifically that, like, what do you think that's going on for businesses in this space and for you guys as well?
Sure, sure. I can only really speak to being a small business owner because we aren't as big as some of the others, but I can say one of the challenges that we face is just trusting the attribution models that we see on some of the different platforms. When we start to say, okay, we're going to put some marketing dollars here, we're going to try and do some A/B testing, get some of that information back, and then maybe those attribution models don't match what we're actually seeing in the in-store data. you immediately call into question, wait a minute, this attribution model here that this particular platform is telling us, it seems inflated. And the more we start to dig into the numbers, the more it's built off of certain modeling that's being done. And so those are the sort of things where I find myself going, man, if we can't get really strong, clear data, then it's going to significantly impact our decision-making process to know where to actually pull certain levers and actually try and invest more marketing dollars to actually see a better return on the spend. So attribution for us is a real, sort of an area that we're focusing a lot of time on to try and understand, okay, how accurate is that? How accurate is it not? And what assumptions can we try to make based off of what we're receiving?
Yeah. If you are interested in that, I guess, and this is a question for you, that you are active on multiple channels and you want to track what comes from where. Is that correct?
Yes.
In that case, which ones are you present on?
Yeah, so we're present on Google, Facebook, Instagram. We've pressed into some Etsy things and Amazon. We haven't really, pressed into TikTok much. I mean, we've just kind of analyzed a few things, but we haven't actually built out any sort of A/B testing or anything like that. So we aren't on like a massive amount. We're just on, some of the key main players. But what's been interesting for us in trying to identify, because we've got a very clear target market, uh, and we recognize fully that some of the challenges with that attribution has been some of the privacy, implications that are coming with both, from a iOS sort of scenario to to even laws that are now being passed from California to some other companies that are now, or other states that are now adopting similar laws. It seems to be that there's a significant sort of upending of the systems that have been created that are built on strong algorithms, and some of the ways that some of this privacy is being handled and some of the way that the attribution is getting changed and adjusted seems to be affecting
Yeah.
in my eyes, some of the trustworthiness of the data.
Yeah. So if you want, let me give you my 2 cents for you and the audience, whoever is, interested in what I'm going to say, which is, I think is
Yeah.
everyone, everyone listening or watching probably is spending some kind of money, a lot or not a lot, on ads. And for everyone, like, this is, even if it's not ads, attribution affects more channels as well. This is driving all of us crazy. And it comes from, keep in mind that this comes from someone with a background in computer science. So I'm all about tracking data. So this is what I do and what I've been doing since 2013, at least marketing, right? And when this happened in 2021, it was like, what's going on? But then it was and still is, but it isn't at the same time, because we try to, first we need to work with what we have, and second we need to start understanding some things about attribution. Attribution, to me at least, and everyone, I try to tell them the same thing every time I talk about this with people, is that, you know, attribution depends on the, what comes from where depends on the lenses you put on, right? First touch, last touch, weight touch, or whatever. It's like, who told you to watch this movie? Was it the first person, the second, the third, the fourth? Well, the first told you that, I don't know, Julia Roberts or Bruce Willis is in the movie. The other one told you it's about fight. The other one told you that won an Oscar. So probably was a combination of things, or it was one of them that moved the needle for you because you were interested in Bruce Willis or in movies that won an Oscar or something. So we never know, but on average, it is said that there are 12 touch points in the user journey. 12 touch points. So trying to know exactly what comes from where sometimes, and even more in this era, could be like chasing the sun. Trying to chase the sun is not, that doesn't mean we shouldn't track, but it means that we should probably ask ourselves different questions to find answers that we can find these days in these attribution platforms. I've used multiple of them, even server-side tracking to feed back, Facebook and Google, etc., with data. But that doesn't change. We need
Mm.
to understand which questions to ask ourselves and try to not make the day-to-day decisions based on the numbers we see there. Like, oh, the ROAS of this campaign on Facebook is 2, and on this platform is 1.5. Let's turn it off. It's like because it's
Sure.
one. It's like those. This is probably not the way we should measure things. And I know it's tough. Yeah. The way we work that is different, right?
Mm.
So, for instance, if I ask you, what exactly do you look for in these tools? And what would change? Like, really, for real, what would change if you saw a 2.5 ROAS instead of a 2.2, like
Mhm.
on the platform, right? What would really change if you had that precision or that accuracy on the data?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because for us, we think a lot about that end customer and we think a lot about our target market. And we're just having a conversation about this on Monday in terms of how does that affect our communication? How does it affect our, content creation? And then the whole way back to even how does that affect our design process and what we're actually designing and creating for that particular customer and what they need. Uh, and so it's interesting because the changes that you're talking about and even that attribution to get a little bit of, those 12 touch points to be able to understand that, okay, did that come from Facebook or did that come from Google? Can be valuable. But I think for us, the most valuable thing is truly understanding who is that end user, who is that end customer, and what is the best way to create a product that truly meets their need and then communicate about that product to them. And for us, that's where we get really excited. We get really excited with that sort of direct customer interaction.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is forcing us. I mean, everything that happened, the iOS, the audience is being broad or broader when it comes to creating a campaign. This is forcing us to level up the marketing because the
Mm.
the field is even for all of us. It's not about the I used to have in my like remember, please keep in mind 2013 and then it evolved. So I used to
Sure.
have like my audiences saved in a notepad or a spreadsheet. So whenever I used to work, I don't know, for local businesses or realtors or brokers and e-com as well in different so if it was beauty, I have like the beauty magazines, the beauty blogs, the beauty brands. So I used to have like my own saved audience in my toolbox. So whenever the brand, whenever we onboarded a brand, it was like plugging those, and typically those worked really well. So it was like this is my know-how, and the same was for every other agency. It was that. Now it forces us to go find the data with what I think we should have always done as marketers
Mm.
and brands, which is go ask the customer through post-purchase surveys, calling them. I interview like 8-figure brands here, and the CEO itself, like himself, call customers and ask them many questions to understand what they want. And sometimes it's not even that. Or aside of that is having a community and engage with them on an ongoing basis. BattleBox, 8-figure brand as well. I recently interviewed John Roman, the CEO. They called their lapsed customers. So if somebody didn't buy for the last 100 days or so, I think he said, they called them. So brands are truly going the extra mile. Maybe
Mm.
what again they should have done like all along, because it's what truly matters, as you said. I in the end, what matters is what do they want? Who are they? Who are they buying for? How long have they considered buying from me before buying for the first time? Who else did they consider as an option or the competition to buy? So this is the stuff that attribution, I understand it helps, but so much, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think that's what's been interesting for us is we try to have that sort of similar touch point with customers. So we'll ask, we'll try to engage, we'll, try to have conversations. There are certain events that we'll show up at year after year after year. And, if we see a particular customer with a product or something, like, hey, tell us about it. How has it worked? What do you like? What do you not like? Just to simply try and understand as people are engaging, whether it's for a month or whether they've had the product now for 2.5, 3 years, what it is about it that has kept them and what it is about the particular design or style or features that they truly value. And for us, that's, we just, because we don't want to create things that are just kind of, quick sort of, kind of a flash and then they're gone. Because of the mission that underlies our product, we want to make sure that we're creating longevity and evergreen products as best we possibly can, and create a customer base that's going to be with us as long as we possibly can, so that we can ensure we're creating that lifelong freedom for the survivor as long as we possibly can. So for us, there's a lot at stake to make sure that we're creating, meeting that need that the customer has.
Right. It makes sense. But yeah, this is what I always try to tell, every brand I speak with, attribution is important, but don't let it,
Hmm.
absorb you if you want, in a way, or don't let it be your end goal or a trap that you fall into and you forget about the fundamentals or everything else that you could be getting. Because yes, it's important, but again, in the end, it's not Google got this sale or Facebook or whatever. It's a combination, and in
Hmm.
the end, the message is important. You will see the needle moved positively or negatively if you see that something is working or not. So yeah, everything is important, but it changed definitely. But again, I think in a good way. If everything was like 100% accurate, because it wasn't, it was never like that. But if it was, let's say, more accurate, probably we would have never started to ask ourselves, hey, should
Sure.
we probably ask our customers more things? Should we analyze different patterns, behaviors? But yeah.
Yeah.
So talking about retention, yes, or you wanted
Mhm.
to say something?
No, I was just going to ask you a follow-up question on that
Oh,
about
all right.
uh, uh, about as you're seeing some of the things and some of the trends that are happening and things like that. Are there things that you're seeing on the horizon that you think are going to help improve a brand's ability to have some of those direct engagements with customers?
You mean direct engagements, like calling
Like
them?
like even new features, yeah, new features on how to have, whether it's a post-purchase campaign or, calling on lapsed purchasers or something like that. Are you seeing that people are starting to recognize, yeah, we need better touch points with the customer? And so are you starting to see tools and opportunities being built to move in that direction?
It's a great question. Well, the uh, for post-purchase surveys, there are a few tools already, no commerce and some others, that help, brands understand what people, it's all about the questions we ask, right?
Hmm.
Those are tools. Then communities as well, back then it was probably mainly Facebook groups. Now there's this platform called School, SKOOL. I'm in some agency communities, in e-commerce communities, not in any brand community yet, but I'm sure there are others. I think they are in Discord or Slack. I'm in some Slack communities as well. So platforms to build communities, yes. Then probably some tools for CX, customer success. But again, some go in favor of this personalization, and some others go for more for, automating some tasks, which is cool. It's part of
Hmm.
the, these days reality, but we don't need to go to the other end and automate so much that we lose the personal touch. What I see in that direction is more and more founders, and if the founder doesn't want to do it, somebody else, but within the company, not an agency, nothing like that, producing content.
Hmm.
The other day, even BattleBox, they some brands think that or many brands these days think that what will cut it for them will be UGC, will be paying some actors or AGC, actor generated content, and that will cut it. It's not the case for many brands anymore. Many people claim UGC is dead. I don't think it's dead, but I think that people can already tell that it's being faked. And there are so
Mm.
many ways to get that through approaching customers. It could be from doing that in an email campaign to encourage them to create content in return of something. It could be, calling them and then asking them. It could be many things, but Battlebox, for instance, again, this is a great brand and they are doing great stuff. And what they do is they basically identify that some purchases or many of them were coming from one creator and they were even paying for them. The guy was paying for the products and was creating content without asking anything in return
Mm.
anonymously. And these people identified them through a survey and they offered them to, start doing it for them for free. I mean, without paying the products. Then they start paying them, I think it was $500. And then it evolved so much that they said, move your family. I think it's to Texas and or
Mm.
to Georgia, and let's start creating content full time for us. It was a customer, a cash paying customer. So you don't
Wow.
know where to start looking for, creators. Look
Yeah.
within your customer base.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, I'm curious too, just with sort of culturally where things are moving, do you think that some of the younger, and when I say younger, I mean, maybe like the 20-year-old segment up to maybe like the, maybe 30-year-old segment, do you think that that customer segment is, and I know this is a generalization, but do you think that there's so much of a value for authenticity that the idea of um, more of the sort of paid ad sort of spokespersons sort of things are less appealing, and instead they actually want to see a little bit more of that authenticity, like this particular person who's a customer creating things because, hey, I use it, I love it, and that's the genuine truth. I'm not getting paid to say that.
Yeah. So I definitely believe that, and even more, I think they want to be entertained, educated, or I think there was one more. I don't remember right now, but it's one of those two, at least the one that I can
Mm.
remember. You see that brands are entertaining customers or educating them, but mainly entertaining them. One of the
Mm.
latest podcast interviews was with Little Saints. They have a beautiful brand, and the two founders, they they disguise themselves, personalizing their ingredients. So they sell beverages with mushrooms. So they dress as Damiana or as Lion's Mane, and they do fun stuff. And they said that that drives way more engagement and sales than the fancy and expensive produced videos, right? So
Mm.
this is it. I always ask people I work with or I talk to the same question. Are you passionate about what you do? And do you think that you can, people can benefit, your customers can benefit from what you offer? If the answer is no, well, what are you doing? But if the answer is yes, which is typically the case, then why don't you go out there and,
Mm.
raise your voice, build awareness for yourself? If you truly believe you can help more people and people can benefit from what you do, go there and say it out loud, record content, entertain, sell it. That's the way. Brock Mamoser, founder of Frostbody, a super successful eight-figure brand. The guy the other day said, I had him on the show, I think last year. And the guy the other day said, once more, I wake up every morning thinking about what will move the needle for my business. TikTok for them is TikTok. I will then spend the day recording TikToks. That's today's life of a founder, of a
Mhm.
CEO. When back then they were behind desks. And now
Sure.
these young founders, 20-something-year-old founders, they know that that moves the needle for them. So they don't hire an agency to create the content for them. They go ahead and record the content all day long.
Mm.
Long form content and short form content, both of them. This is a pattern I've seen with the guests and client all along. Long form content and short form content. And that, my friend, is very difficult to track.
Mm.
All of them organic,
Sure,
you
sure.
know, but I mean, it's worth it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really interesting because we've seen continued growth in organic side, and one of the things that I'll say to our team is like, okay, it's organic, so I know that we can't track source, but do we have any indicators that we think could be the source of where it's coming from? So it is in the way I look at it. I actually think it's a lot of fun. I think it's trying to learn and create. And I think we've got people on our team that they enjoy the challenge, they enjoy the creative process.
Well, I will tell you something because I think this will be very natural for you to digest due to the nature of what you do on the nonprofit side. You do a lot of stuff, great stuff, by the way, um, that is not for profit, right? And you do it anyway because it serves a cause. Well, in a totally different layer and aspect, this serves another cause as well, like boosting your own organic communication on, let's say, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or whatever. That, of course, you want to track it back to results. But even if I told you that it's not trackable, if you feel that that will help you spread your message, keep your
Mhm.
things the lights on and build a brand, and well, you still gotta do it. Brands are doubling down on that, and many times I'm sure they don't have a clue whether that's working or not until they do, until they test it with something more actionable, an offer, a giveaway, or something.
Sure.
Maybe it is, that you have, again, another noble cause. You invite them to be part of a beneficial event or something, and they respond, they show up, they are paying attention, right? You
Mhm.
have an audience, and building an audience these days, I don't know if it's more important than running ads, but I would say that for brands that run ads and they don't do anything organically, it's getting tougher. That I
Mm.
can guarantee that. Brands that don't have an online presence these days, it wasn't like this in 2018 or even 2020 because of the pandemic, but these days, without organic, I mean, at least for presence for a brand, things probably would be way more uphill for
Sure.
brands.
Absolutely. And we've actually created, we kind of think through that sort of, the funnel, the awareness, and then how are we actually creating that brand awareness and then building out brand equity. And one of the ways that we've tried to actually do that, and we started doing it a number of years ago because we wanted to actually create a really strong, engaged base that's with us, is um, the nonprofit side allows us to actually engage people on that side of the work as potential donors. But then we also have different events that we've done. And we created a whole process as an athleisure brand. We created a whole process where if people really want to get involved to actually help the cause, they can actually apply to host these 5K run walk events. And then we've got online training, we've got coaches, we've got a whole bunch of materials that we can provide. And what's really fun is we then tie that in and connect that in to the impact of the product so that as you take part in one of these 5K runs, you run for a particular woman by name, and then it's conceivable that months later you can actually go on our website, purchase a product, and one of the women you helped to set free is now helping to produce that very product. So we're trying to create that really sort of tangible engagement. And what it's allowed us to do then is build in a significant amount of brand awareness, brand equity of people being able to get involved at some entry level points before they're even looking at purchasing a product. So we've got some of those entryways coming in this way, to your point, where it's like those aren't ad based. Those aren't, we aren't putting money into ads. We're trying to just create a lot more of an organic, in many ways, what we refer to as a movement of people
Yeah.
that are actually getting involved to create change. Then on the other side, we're trying to then build out, okay, how do we create, a really strong customer base that's just coming in for the customer. And as we build both of those audiences, we've been able to see that come together in a way that truly does help fulfill the mission.
It's amazing. Talking about retention now, we
Mhm.
discussed a lot about acquisition and it was a great conversation. I told you before I hit record that I had planned a few questions for you, but I said, the best conversation is when we don't plan it. And so far it's been all about that. So I'm happy
Sure.
it went that way. And now I did wanted to ask you about the retention. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you have a loyalty program, right?
Correct. Yes.
What's it about, and do you think that it has helped you do a great job as I believe you're doing in the retention side of things?
Yeah, so we feel pretty good about our the retention rate. Our returning customer rates, pretty high, and lifetime value of a customer relative to the initial average order value, we feel is very healthy for the level of product that we're using or that we're selling. And so what we've seen is that we do see, especially once you start moving into the holidays and things like that, we see a lot of customers will actually use their rewards points. They'll actually and they can get rewards points for a number of different things. We've tried to set them at different levels from, a product review to then recommending a customer to spending a certain amount of, in our shop, and all of them getting rewards. And then we build that into some of the email funnel, the communication sales funnel, where there will be reminders that, hey, you can actually use these rewards points for this particular product. Um, and we've seen that actually move the needle for us in terms of people not just being engaged with us, not just being return customers, but then also inviting someone like, hey, did you hear about Aruna? Because they get points for that as part of the reward. And so that's been fun for us just to be able to see that it creates a little bit of stickiness for that customer to stay with us.
What do you think is the key to success for a loyalty program? Because I know that I'm not saying it's easy to launch it, but probably it's easier to launch it than making it work. So how do you avoid people to forget about it and do nothing about it? What's the key?
Yeah, it's a challenge. One of the things that we try to do, and we have obviously the benefit of this because it's, we've got a mission that underlays what we're seeking to accomplish. And so sometimes for us, it's not always, hey, you've got those reward points, come back in and purchase. It's just simply us saying, thank you for already having purchased. Here's the impact of your purchase. And so it's helping them kind of see, okay, this is impactful. Where I'm choosing to spend my dollars is actually having a direct human impact. And I feel good about that. I'm excited about that. So then maybe the next time we actually have that communication and say, oh, by the way, you've got some rewards points here. Um, it 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 it's not just it doesn't just feel like another sort of sales approach. There's a connection to a deeper cause, a deeper reason for the purchases that are being made.
Right. And I guess that if people are engaged, it's because they can do something with the points sooner than later, right? Because some brands, approach it the wrong, I don't know if the wrong way, but they they put things with a lot of points, in exchange and people can do anything, so they leave.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. I think that if it's going to be a rewards point, you have to genuinely reward. And so I remember initially when we were talking about the program, we were trying to figure out and kind of almost do some calculating on, okay, if this happens, what about this? Where does that actually put us in terms of what? And and there were some suggestions on, well, we got to put it way out in front so we don't give too much away. And then there were people at the table going, but wait a second, this is a rewards program. We're trying to actually help add value to the customer. So we can't put it so far out into the future that they go, oh, this is meaningless. It's not valuable to me. And what's interesting is we know every customer has, values things differently. And so what we've tried to do is land kind of in a sweet spot for what we think to be true for our target customers. And and it's worked in some ways, and then there's other ways where we realize, oh, okay, this for some people isn't that valuable. They come in and they buy things at full price and don't actually even use some of their rewards points, where others actually do. So it's a for us, we love to be able to actually engage with that customer. It gives us just another touch point with the customer related to the reward system.
So talking about, measuring stuff, but not with attribution for now, I'm curious, which metrics do you, or which metrics are you obsessed with now? And how did that change as you grew the company?
Yeah, so there are a couple things for us, and this goes to kind of early on, just the level of product that we had, our initial product offerings, and then how we built from there. Is we knew we needed to start with more of a simple based product, both for the artisans manufacturing it, as well as being able to try and enter into the market, and then from there, once we build out brand equity, to try and see what we can do with price. And so, once we did kind of a competitive analysis, kind of mapped, price, cost, quality, all of those key functions, we knew that we wanted to increase in terms of where we're going with our pricing, or I'm sorry, where we're going with our average order value. Um, because for us, one of the key metrics early on was we knew we were not going to, most likely as a new brand breaking in, we weren't going to be able to be profitable on first sale. So we knew we had to build in lifetime value. And over time, as we've been able to build out that average order value, one of the things that we look at is, are we getting, are we profitable first sale? And not so dependent then on building out lifetime value, although we want to continue to do that because that's a key function of what we're going after. So it's a mix of some of those key points of what is that cost of that first sale, what is our average order value, and then what is our true lifetime value of that customer. Those are all key functions for me. But one that I really pay attention to, quite honestly, is how customers are truly rating our products. That to me is and there's a reason for that. For us, specific to what we do, we knew early on in a lot of testing that there was a bit of a customer dissonance between cause and quality. So we knew that most customers coming into a brand that has an underlying cause behind the product, they immediately question, is this good quality? And if they're questioning if it's good quality and the price is a little bit higher, then they're not going to purchase. So we knew early on we have to make sure that our customers are saying, oh my goodness, this quality is actually far superior to what I anticipated. And so for us, that customer review cycle for us is absolutely key to make sure that we're really driving high quality product to be able to say, yes, we are truly premium athleisure.
How do you think that you have tackled that? I mean, how do you make that happen that they really value the product?
It's been fun when we'll see reviews that say this is better than Lululemon, and we love when we hear customer comments like that. We love when we see customers come in purchasing product and they don't know the backstory and they're commenting on the quality, and then they learn about the backstory and say, "Oh my goodness, I had no idea." So it's those sort of nuances that we absolutely love to hear. And so we actually try to we scrape a lot of those customer reviews. And then we also do some of the, we'll go back, we'll sit down with customers, we'll reach out to customers, we have conversations with customers to really try and understand, are we truly meeting the need that they have in terms of that product? And then we're also trying to understand a little bit more of, are we balancing well between communicating product benefit and communicating mission impact? Because that's a really hard balance to establish, especially if we're just talking specifically online ads, we've got just a moment to capture them.
Yeah.
How do we capture quality, product distinction or mission impact? Like how do you, so so for us, getting a lot of that customer input is very critical.
Amazing. So what's next for Aruna?
Boy, Brian, I tend to want to go. And so we've been talking a lot about how do we make sure that we grow at a pace that truly does benefit the women that we're serving. And that's been really exciting for us because what we've seen is, there's a really healthy environment and culture that we've been able to create. And a lot of those artisans are saying, all right, let's go. I'm ready to, I want to try and do as much as we possibly can to make this thing grow significantly. And that's been really thrilling for us. So we've basically got kind of a 3-year plan laid out. We've got a 10-year target that we're trying to hit. And that 3-year plan that we've got laid out is a pretty aggressive plan in terms of really growing out the marketing direction of where we're going, telling far more engaging stories. And a lot of that's built on the feedback that we've gotten from our customers. And we've got a couple new products that are launching that are even more elevated than our current lines. And so we're really excited for the direction we're heading. And the whole point, the impact that we're trying to do is continue to try and see more young women freed and employed and empowered. And not just that, but what's been exciting is that impact for every one woman we've been able to see freed and employed and empowered. There's usually a 4x impact on those who are now no longer at risk for being trafficked. That may mean a child who's, sleeping in the particular area where she's being abused. That child is now free. Or it could be siblings that are at risk for being trafficked that are now no longer at risk because of the income that she's earning. And so for us, that's by far and away our greatest metric is are we creating true lifelong freedom, and what is the impact of that freedom? And so the business is a means to get us there.
Amazing. This was honestly a great conversation, and a very deep conversation as well. We discussed everything, from these stories you brought to the table to acquisition, retention. So you can't complain if you're listening or watching this episode. We had a little bit of everything, so that's amazing. But before you go, I wanted to ask you if you have, as I always ask every guest that comes to the show, if you have any book to recommend to the audience that you love or meant something for you.
Yeah, early on when we first learned about this issue of human trafficking, there was a book that I read called When Helping Hurts, written by a guy named Brian Fickert. And he writes from a particular worldview, but he specifically gets into how sometimes really good intended people can actually create systems and processes that truly in the long haul become harmful for the people they're trying to serve. And that was very impactful for us as a brand that's seeking to create significant impact for the sake of these women. And so I just really appreciate Brian's perspective on it.
Big name, by the way. Yeah. Brian. Yeah. No.
Oh, of course. Yeah. All brilliant men are named Brian, are they not?
Yeah. So, Ryan, well, yours is similar, Ryan. So it's
Sure.
yeah. So, for everyone listening to this episode or watching this, why not? If you are not already on the DTCinsider.com, please make sure to go there, click on the episode, and you will find the show notes with everything that Ryan mentioned, everything we discussed, and why not, of course, the link to the book he mentioned. Ryan, it was a true pleasure to having you here on the show. Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much for having me, Brian. I appreciate it. Keep leading the way on this DTC world we live in.
Thank you. And before we go, I was forgetting to ask you, where can people go to learn more about you and Aruna?
Sure. They can go to arunaproject.com. So it's ARUNA, the word project.com.
Amazing. And what about you? Are you on LinkedIn or anywhere on social?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, but I tend to take a backseat on a lot of the social stuff.
Okay, no worries. Aruna's website it is, again, everyone listening or watching will be in the show notes. Again, Ryan, thank you for coming. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
This episode was brought to you by BSR Digital. We help DTC brands grow through paid ads and email marketing campaigns. If you'd like us to help your business grow, head on over to bsrdigital.com and schedule a call with us.